Professor Jake Morrison stared at his coffee mug like it held the secrets of the universe. Unfortunately, it only held disappointment and the faint taste of regret. The mug read "World's okayest teacher," which felt optimistic considering his current assignment. "Congratulations, Jake," he muttered to himself, mimicking Dean Williams' overly cheerful voice. "You've been selected for the Galactic Exchange Program. It's such an honor." Honor? Right. More like punishment for that incident with the fire ants and the visiting board members. But here he was, about to teach alien students about Earth's wildlife, because apparently the universe had a sense of humor. The classroom door hissed open, and in walked his students. Well, walked was generous for some of them. First came Zephyr, an insectoid creature that looked like a praying mantis had hit the gym and developed an attitude problem. His compound eyes whirred as they focused on Jake, probably calculating his molecular composition, or something equally unsettling. Next shuffled in Blaze, who resembled what would happen if a rhinoceros decided to become a bodybuilder and grew 4 arms. His species, the Corvani, were supposedly the greatest warriors in the galaxy. Jake had his doubts, mainly because Blaze kept bumping into doorframes. Finally, there was Nimbus, a gelatinous blob of anxiety who changed colors based on emotional state. Currently, he was a nervous shade of purple that reminded Jake of a bruised grape. Nimbus didn't walk so much as undulate, leaving a faint trail of what Jake really hoped was just moisture. "Good morning, class," Jake said, settling behind his desk. "Welcome to Earth Biology 101, subtitle, Why Your Planet's Predators Are Adorable Compared to Ours." Zephyr's mandibles clicked in what Jake had learned was laughter. "Professor Morrison, with respect, our research indicates that Earth predators are remarkably inefficient. Your largest carnivore, the polar bear, has a success rate of merely 2% when hunting seals." "That's adorable," Blaze rumbled, his voice like rocks in a cement mixer. "On Corvan, our younglings achieve higher success rates hunting practice dummies." Nimbus rippled nervously. "I've calculated that Earth predators possess insufficient bite force, inadequate speed, and frankly embarrassing stealth capabilities. It's remarkable your species survived long enough to develop technology." Jake smiled. It wasn't a pleasant smile. It was the smile of a man who'd spent 3 years studying under the world's most sadistic survival instructors and had the scars to prove it. "That's fascinating," he said, pulling up the day's lesson plan. "Today we're going to study one of Earth's more, let's say, underestimated predators, the tiger." "Tigers," Zephyr stated matter-of-factly, "are large cats with orange fur and black stripes. They hunt primarily through ambush tactics and have a bite force of approximately 1,000 pounds per square inch. Hardly impressive." "My species' pet companions have stronger jaws," Blaze added dismissively. Jake's smile widened. "Wonderful. Then you won't mind our field trip tomorrow to observe them in action." The 3 aliens exchanged glances. Well, Zephyr and Blaze exchanged glances. Nimbus just sort of quivered. "Field trip?" Nimbus squeaked, turning a pale yellow. "That sounds educational." "Oh, it will be," Jake assured him, already planning the most educational day of their lives. The next morning, Jake activated the holographic display system, and a 3-dimensional tiger materialized in the center of the classroom. It was magnificent, all rippling muscle and predatory grace, frozen mid-prowl. "Panthera tigris," Jake announced. "Native to Asia, weighing up to 660 pounds, capable of leaping horizontally up to 33 feet. Zephyr's eyes whirred as he processed the data, the inadequate mass to strength ratio. "The Klaxon hunters of my homeworld achieve superior performance metrics with 40% less body weight." "This is your apex predator," Blaze snorted, which sounded like a diesel engine backfiring. "The razor maw of Corvan would consume this creature as an appetizer." Jake paused the hologram. "Tell me about this razor maw." Blaze puffed up with pride, which made him look like a spiky balloon. 20 feet of armored death, titanium composite claws, electromagnetic pulse capabilities, and jaws that can shear through starship hulls. They're the perfect killing machine. Perfect, you say? Absolutely. No creature in the galaxy can challenge a razor more. They're apex predators in the truest sense. Nimbus turned a sickly green. I've seen the footage from Corvan nature documentaries. Razor moors hunt in packs and can take down creatures 10 times their size. Nothing survives an encounter with them. Jake nodded thoughtfully. Fascinating. And Zephyr? These klaxon hunters of yours? Biomechanical perfection, Zephyr clicked proudly. Enhanced reflexes, poison delivery systems, and tactical intelligence that allows them to coordinate attacks across vast distances. They've never lost a hunt. Never? Is a statistical impossibility. Our hunting algorithms account for every variable. Jake walked over to the holographic tiger and gestured at its massive paws. You see these claws? Retractable, allowing for silent movement, and these muscles in the hindquarters? They provide explosive acceleration from a dead stop. Primitive ambush tactics. Blaze waved dismissively. Any competent warrior sees through such basic strategies. The stripes, Jake continued, provide camouflage in tall grass and shadow patterns. But I suppose your species' predators don't need stealth. Stealth is for the weak, Blaze declared. Corvani warriors face their prey head-on. Of course they do. Jake's tone was perfectly neutral, which somehow made it more ominous. Nimbus. What do your people consider the most dangerous aspect of predation? Nimbus fluctuated between purple and yellow. Well, on my homeworld we focus on chemical defenses and rapid escape. Direct confrontation is illogical when you can simply dissolve potential threats with acidic secretions. Dissolve them. Right. Jake made a note on his tablet. So to summarize, Zephyr's people rely on technological superiority and algorithms. Blaze's people prefer direct confrontation and brute force, and Nimbus's people use chemical warfare and avoidance. The three aliens nodded in agreement. Excellent. That gives me a much better understanding of your perspectives. Jake smiled again, and this time all three aliens instinctively took a step back. Now who's ready for that field trip? Zephyr's mandibles clicked nervously. Professor, perhaps we could observe Earth predators through additional holographic simulations instead. Where's the fun in that? Besides, you've all made it clear that Earth predators pose no threat to advanced species like yourselves. Blaze straightened. His warrior pride clearly stung. I didn't say they posed no threat. I merely stated they were inferior to Corvani predators. Then you'll have no problem observing them up close. Nimbus had turned completely transparent, which Jake had learned meant he was either terrified or about to faint. Possibly both. The preserve is perfectly safe, Jake assured them. We'll be observing from a secure distance. What could possibly go wrong? Those words would later be identified as the exact moment the universe decided to test Jake's confidence in Earth's wildlife management systems. The Riverside Wildlife Preserve looked peaceful enough as their transport vehicle pulled up to the entrance. Rolling hills covered in native grassland stretched toward a line of trees that marked the beginning of the facility's natural habitat zones. This is your maximum security predator containment facility, Zephyr asked, his compound eyes scanning the seemingly pastoral landscape. Well, it's more of a conservation center, Jake replied, checking his tablet. They rehabilitate injured wildlife and maintain breeding programs for endangered species. Blaze laughed, a sound like boulders tumbling down a cliff. Your species keeps dangerous predators in what amounts to a petting zoo. How delightfully primitive. Nimbus had managed to achieve a color Jake had never seen before, sort of a translucent beige that suggested existential dread. Are we certain this is advisable? Perhaps we could observe Earth predators through documentary footage instead. Relax, Jake said, leading them down a well-maintained path. The most dangerous thing you're likely to encounter here is a strongly worded sign about not feeding the animals. They walked for about 20 minutes, with Jake pointing out various Earth species, while his alien students provided increasingly condescending commentary. A family of deer grazing in a meadow prompted Zephyr to calculate their pathetic escape velocity. A red-tailed hawk circling overhead earned Blaze's dismissive comment about aerial hunters with inadequate talons. That's when Jake's communicator started buzzing with an emergency alert. He glanced at the screen and felt his blood pressure spike. Attention all personnel. Code 7 containment breach. Code 7 containment breach. All visitors proceed to nearest emergency shelter immediately. Code 7? Nimbus squeaked, now cycling rapidly through colors like a confused mood ring. Jake was reading the full alert message, and his face was going pale. Apparently there's been an incident at the classified research facility about 2 miles from here. The classified research facility. Zephyr's mandibles clicked rapidly. You didn't mention any classified research facilities. Well, that's because they're classified, Jake replied, still reading. Oh no. What is oh no? Blaze demanded. The containment breach involves a, quote, large extraterrestrial predator specimen, end quote. Dead silence. Extraterrestrial, Zephyr repeated slowly. As in, not from Earth. That would be the definition, yes. Nimbus had gone completely clear except for what looked like a rapidly beating heart. What kind of extraterrestrial predator? Jake consulted his tablet again. According to this, it appears to be something called a razor maw. Blaze's forearms went rigid. That's impossible. There are no razor maws off Corvan. Well, there's one off Corvan now, and it's heading in this general direction. The ground began to vibrate with heavy footsteps, and a sound like a chainsaw having an argument with a garbage disposal echoed across the preserve. That's a razor maw mating call, Blaze whispered. His usual bravado completely evaporated. Mating call? Jake asked. They make that sound when they're hunting. It paralyzes prey with fear. Zephyr's compound eyes were whirring frantically. My calculations indicate we have approximately 4.7 minutes before the creature reaches our position, assuming standard razor maw pursuit velocity. Through the trees, something massive crashed through the underbrush. Jake caught a glimpse of armored hide and claws the size of baseball bats. Emergency shelter? Nimbus suggested hopefully. Jake checked his tablet. Nearest shelter is back at the entrance. That's about a 20-minute walk. We have 4.7 minutes, Zephyr reminded him. You were. The razor maw's hunting call echoed again, closer this time, and Jake felt something primal wake up in his nervous system. Every instinct his species had developed over millions of years of evolution was suddenly screaming the same message, run, hide, or become something's lunch. So, Jake said, trying to keep his voice steady, any bright ideas about how your respective species would handle this situation? Blaze was backing toward the nearest tree. Corvani warriors typically face razor maws in groups of 20, with energy weapons and tactical support. We have 3 people and a tablet. Then we die with honor. That's not particularly helpful. Zephyr's analytical composure was cracking. Klaxon hunters avoid razor maws entirely. They're considered an unacceptable risk factor. And your people, Nimbus. Nimbus had achieved what Jake was pretty sure was complete transparency. We would dissolve into component molecules and reconstitute somewhere safer. None of you can actually do that right now, can you? 3 negative responses confirmed Jake's suspicions. The crashing through the underbrush was getting louder, and Jake could smell something that reminded him of wet metal and industrial lubricant. Well, he said, surprised by his own calm, I guess we're about to find out how Earth handles this kind of problem. The razor maw burst through the tree line, like a nightmare wrapped in titanium plating. 20 feet of pure predatory malice, it moved with surprising grace for something that looked like it had been designed by a committee of serial killers. Its electromagnetic pulse organs crackled with energy, and its claws left deep furrows in the earth with each step. Jake's alien students pressed against him in what he realized was probably their first genuine bonding moment. It's magnificent, Blaze whispered in horror, and it's going to kill us all. The creature's head swiveled toward them. multiple sets of eyes focusing with the precision of targeting systems. It opened its mouth, revealing rows of teeth that could double as industrial cutting tools. 4.2 minutes was apparently optimistic, Zephyr observed with remarkable calm for someone about to become an appetizer. That's when Jake noticed the movement in the tall grass about 50 yards behind the razor maw. "Don't move," he whispered to his students. "We're paralyzed with terror," Nimbus replied. "Moving isn't an option." "No, I mean really don't move. We're about to get a demonstration in Earth predator behavior." The razor maw took another step toward them, and Jake saw the grass shift again. Orange and black stripes, barely visible against the golden prairie grass, moving with impossible silence. "There's something behind it," Zephyr breathed. "Siberian tiger," Jake replied quietly. "A male, probably around 600 pounds. "That's your solution?" Blaze hissed. "One Earth cat against the galaxy's perfect predator? Watch and learn." The tiger emerged from the grass like a guided missile made of muscle and malice. But instead of charging directly at the razor maw, it began to circle, keeping low, using every available piece of cover. The razor maw's electromagnetic sensors went haywire, trying to track the tiger's movement. The pulse organs that should have incapacitated any Earth creature were apparently having no effect. "How is it not paralyzed?" Blaze asked. "Earth predators evolved without electromagnetic nervous systems," Jake explained, never taking his eyes off the unfolding hunt. "Your razor maw's primary weapon is useless here." The tiger continued its patient circle, and Jake began to narrate like a nature documentary host who'd had too much coffee. "Notice how the tiger isn't attacking directly. It's studying its opponent, learning movement patterns, identifying weak points. Earth predators don't just hunt, they problem solve." The razor maw spun to track the tiger, its massive claws gouging trenches in the earth. But every time it turned, the tiger had already moved, staying just outside the creature's reach while maintaining the perfect stalking distance. "The razor maw is built for direct confrontation," Jake continued. "Overwhelming force, intimidation, electromagnetic disruption. But the tiger is designed for something your species apparently never encountered: tactical hunting." The tiger suddenly dropped even lower, belly nearly touching the ground, and began moving through grass that should have been too short to provide cover. Somehow it was invisible until it chose to be seen. "Impossible," Zephyr clicked. "My calculations indicate insufficient concealment density in this terrain." "Your calculations don't account for millions of years of evolution in environments where being seen meant death," Jake replied. "Watch the grass patterns." The tiger was using shadows, wind direction, and even the razor maw's own movement to mask its approach. When the alien predator stepped left, the tiger shifted right. When it looked up, the tiger dropped lower. Then the razor maw made its mistake. It reared up on its hind legs, trying to get a better view of the area, exposing its throat. The tiger moved. Jake had seen big cats hunt before, but this was poetry written in violence. The tiger covered 30 feet in a blur of orange and black, launching itself at the exact moment the razor maw was off balance. 600 pounds of Earth predator collided with 20 feet of galactic nightmare, and physics got very interesting very quickly. The tiger's claws found purchase in gaps between the razor maw's armor plates, and its jaws clamped down on the creature's throat with precision that would make a surgeon jealous. A bite force of 1,000 pounds per square inch, Jake observed conversationally as the two creatures rolled across the clearing. They applied directly to the carotid artery. The razor maw thrashed desperately, its claws raking at the tiger, but the cat had positioned itself perfectly to avoid the worst of the damage while maintaining its death grip. "The tiger is using the razor maw's own momentum against it," Jake continued, like he was discussing the weather. "A classic Earth predator technique. Why waste energy when your prey will exhaust itself trying to escape?" The electromagnetic pulses were firing randomly now, but the tiger's nervous system remained unaffected. If anything, the crackling energy seemed to annoy it. "Earth predators," Jake said as the razor maw's struggles grew weaker, "evolved on a planet where everything is trying to kill everything else. They don't just hunt, They've learned to hunt hunters. The razor maw gave one final thrash and went still. The tiger released its grip, stepped back, and began calmly grooming itself as if 20-foot armored death machines were just another Tuesday. Jake's 3 alien students stared in absolute silence. Questions? Jake asked cheerfully. Zephyr was the first to speak, his mandibles clicking so rapidly they sounded like a broken printer. My calculations were incorrect. Were they? Jake asked, pulling out his tablet to document the incident. How so? I computed the tiger's hunting efficiency based on standard Earth prey animals. I failed to account for adaptive behavior against unknown threats. The tiger, having finished its grooming, glanced over at the group of observers. Its amber eyes held what Jake could only describe as mild curiosity, as if it was wondering whether they were worth eating or just worth ignoring. The creature displayed tactical intelligence that exceeded my projections by several orders of magnitude, Zephyr continued. It analyzed an unknown opponent, identified weaknesses, and executed a precision strike that neutralized the threat with minimal energy expenditure. Sounds like your Klaxon hunters could learn a thing or two, Jake observed. Blaze was staring at the dead razor maw with something approaching reverence. I have fought razor maws in the ritual combats of my people. I have seen our greatest warriors fall to these creatures. Yet this earth predator defeated one alone, without weapons, without armor, without even advanced warning. How does that make you feel? Jake asked, genuinely curious. Humbled, Blaze rumbled, and terrified. If earth tigers can hunt razor maws, what else can your predators do? Nimbus had managed to achieve a color that Jake was pretty sure wasn't in the visible spectrum. Professor Morrison, are all earth predators capable of such efficiency? Jake suggested. Nightmare-inducing tactical supremacy, Nimbus finished weakly. Jake considered this. Well, tigers are pretty impressive, but they're not even close to the top of Earth's predator hierarchy. 3 alien faces turned toward him with expressions of dawning horror. They're not? Zephyr asked. Oh no, tigers are ambush predators. They're built for taking down single targets through stealth and overwhelming force. But Earth has persistence hunters, pack hunters, aerial predators, aquatic predators, and predators that hunt other predators as a hobby. As a hobby? Blaze repeated faintly. Honey badgers, for example. They hunt venomous snakes for fun. And don't get me started on orcas or polar bears or, God forbid, humans. Humans? Nimbus squeaked. Jake smiled, and this time it was genuinely friendly, which somehow made it more terrifying than his previous expressions. Did you really think a species that conquered an entire planet filled with creatures like that tiger would be pushovers? The 3 aliens exchanged glances, and Jake could practically see the recalculations happening in their heads. You orchestrated this, Zephyr accused, his analytical mind putting the pieces together. The field trip, the timing, everything. Well, not the actual razor maw escape, Jake admitted. That was just incredibly convenient timing. But I may have selected this particular preserve because I knew it had some of our more impressive local residents. You used us as bait, Blaze said. But he didn't sound angry, he sounded impressed. I used you as learning opportunities, Jake corrected. There's a difference. The tiger stretched, yawned, and began walking away, apparently having decided that the alien spectators weren't worth its attention. Where is it going? Nimbus asked. Probably to find a nice spot for a nap, Jake replied. Hunting is exhausting work, even for apex predators. It's just leaving. It's not hungry anymore, and we're not threatening its territory. Why would it stick around? The 3 aliens watched the tiger disappear into the tall grass with expressions of bewildered respect. Professor Morrison, Zephyr said finally, I believe I need to recalculate everything I thought I knew about Earth biology. That's the spirit, Jake replied, making notes on his tablet. Same time next week? I thought we'd cover pack hunters, maybe wolves or African wild dogs. Three alien students suddenly became very interested in finding reasons to study Earth predators from a much safer distance. Actually, Nimbus said carefully, "I think I've learned enough about Earth predators for one semester." "But we've barely scratched the surface," Jake protested with mock disappointment. "We haven't even covered the really dangerous ones yet." "The really dangerous ones?" Blaze asked, despite himself. Jake's smile could have powered a small city. "Did I mention that humans are persistence hunters?" 3 months later, Jake stood at the back of the university's main auditorium, watching his three former students present their final projects to a mixed audience of humans and aliens. The transformation was remarkable. Zephyr had traded his previous dismissive attitude for something approaching scholarly obsession. His presentation, titled Tactical Adaptability in Earth Predator Species, a re-evaluation of hunting efficiency metrics, was accompanied by holographic displays showing complex mathematical models. Previous calculations failed to account for the variable of adaptive intelligence. Zephyr was explaining to the fascinated audience. Earth predators don't simply execute pre-programmed hunting sequences. They analyze, adapt, and modify their approach based on real-time threat assessment. He clicked to his next slide, which showed a detailed breakdown of the tiger's hunting strategy against the razor moor. The specimen demonstrated tactical flexibility that exceeded klaxon hunter parameters by 347%. Most significantly, it exhibited the ability to identify and exploit weaknesses in completely unknown prey, suggesting an intelligence model that prioritizes adaptability over specialization. Jake nodded approvingly. Zephyr had gone from dismissing Earth predators as inefficient to writing research papers about their superiority, character growth at its finest. Next up was Blaze, whose presentation was titled Honor in the Hunt, What Corvani Warriors Can Learn from Earth Predators. The warrior had clearly struggled with the concept that stealth and strategy might be more effective than direct confrontation. "The Earth Tiger taught me that true strength lies not in meeting your enemy head-on, but in understanding them completely before you strike," Blaze rumbled to his audience. "My people have always believed that honor comes from facing superior odds through force alone. But there is greater honor in ensuring victory through wisdom." He activated a holographic display showing Corvani hunting techniques compared to Earth predator strategies. "I propose incorporating Earth tactical methods into Corvani warrior training, not to replace our traditions, but to enhance them with the wisdom of a species that has mastered the art of hunting hunters." Jake had to suppress a chuckle. Blaze had gone from considering Earth predators beneath notice to wanting to revolutionize his entire species' military doctrine. Not bad for a semester's work. Finally, Nimbus approached the podium, still shifting colors nervously, but with noticeably more confidence than he'd shown at the beginning of the turn. "My research project examines the psychological impact of Earth predator encounters on non-terrestrial species," Nimbus began, his voice steadier than Jake had ever heard it. "Specifically, how confronting Earth's apex predators can fundamentally alter one's understanding of predation, survival, and the nature of fear itself." His presentation included detailed psychological profiles of various alien species and their responses to Earth wildlife. "What I discovered is that Earth predators represent something unique in the galaxy, perfectly evolved hunters that operate without technological enhancement, electromagnetic manipulation, or chemical warfare. They relied purely on biological optimization refined over millions of years of evolution." Nimbus paused, turning a determined shade of blue. "My conclusion is that Earth represents the most dangerous ecosystem in known space, not despite its lack of advanced technology, but because of it. A planet where survival requires constant adaptation has produced predators capable of hunting anything, anywhere, under any conditions." The audience was completely silent, and Jake felt a surge of pride in his former students. When the presentations ended, Jake was approached by Dean Williams, who was carrying a small trophy. "Congratulations, Professor Morrison," the dean said, handing him the award. "The Galactic Education Council has voted you this year's recipient of the Distinguished Teaching Through Practical Experience Award." Jake read the inscription, "For excellence in interspecies education through controlled terror." Controlled terror? Jake asked. Their words, not mine, the dean replied with a grin. Apparently your teaching methods have become legendary throughout the exchange program. We've received requests from 17 different species asking specifically for your courses. That's terrifying. Isn't it wonderful? As Jake mingled with the crowd, accepting congratulations and trying to explain that he hadn't actually planned for anyone to almost get eaten, he noticed his 3 former students approaching. Professor Morrison, Zephyr said, his mandibles clicking in what Jake now recognized as genuine affection, we wanted to thank you for the most educational experience of our lives. Even if you did nearly get us killed, Blaze added, but he was smiling. Especially because you nearly got us killed, Nimbus corrected, having achieved what Jake was pretty sure was a happy shade of green. Fear is an excellent motivator for learning. I'm glad you all found the experience enriching, Jake replied diplomatically. We were wondering, Zephyr continued, what you're planning to teach next semester's exchange students. Jake glanced around the room at the new batch of alien students who had just arrived for orientation. They looked confident, dismissive, and thoroughly convinced of their own species' superiority. Perfect. Well, Jake said thoughtfully, I was thinking of covering Earth's most dangerous predator. Tigers, Blaze asked. Bears? Nimbus suggested. Sharks? Zephyr clicked hopefully. Jake's smile was answer enough, but he decided to elaborate anyway. Humans. Air. The 3 former students stared at him in dawning comprehension. You mean, Zephyr said slowly, we've been learning from Earth's apex predator this entire time. The species that conquered every biome on the planet, eliminated most of its natural threats, and then got bored and started exploring space, Jake asked rhetorically. That would be us, yes. Blaze's 4 arms crossed in a gesture Jake had learned indicated deep thought. The persistence hunters you mentioned. Among other things. We're also pack hunters, tool users, strategic thinkers, and we have this unfortunate tendency to domesticate our former predators as pets. Pets? Nimbus squeaked, cycling through several colors rapidly. We keep wolves in our homes and call them dogs. We've bred tigers small enough to sit on our laps and call them house cats. We made friends with the species that used to hunt us. The 3 aliens stared at him with expressions of slowly dawning horror. Professor Morrison, Zephyr said carefully, exactly how dangerous are humans? Jake looked around the room at his colleagues, fellow members of the species that had looked at a planet full of creatures designed to kill them and decided to make it their home. The species that had turned competition with apex predators into a learning experience. Put it this way, he said finally. When the Galactic Council was setting up the exchange program, there was some debate about whether Earth should be included at all. Why? Blaze asked, though Jake suspected he already knew the answer. Because we're the only species in the galaxy that considers education through near-death experiences a valid teaching methodology. Jake gestured toward the new group of exchange students, who were chatting confidently among themselves, completely unaware of what they were in for. But they voted to include us anyway, because apparently the universe needs more effective predators. He picked up his teaching materials and headed toward the new students, already planning next semester's curriculum. Same time next week? He called back to his former students. I'm thinking of starting with persistence hunting techniques and working our way up to advanced psychological warfare. 3 alien voices answered in unison. We'll be studying off-world that semester. Jake laughed and went to introduce himself to the next batch of overconfident alien students who thought they understood predation. After all, someone had to teach them that the most dangerous predators were the ones that looked harmless until it was too late to run. And Earth's predators had learned from the very best teachers, the species that had turned hunting into an art form, survival into a science, and education into an extreme sport. Welcome to Earth University, where the learning curve had teeth.